What's up, Vanguard?
Hello, Vanguard.
How is everybody doing?
How are you doing? I just want to ask our fans, do you recognize us? Do you recognize us? Because all of a sudden, Matt, we're hanging out with the bigwigs. We're hanging out with we're hanging out with the real fucking people who do it. For a second, it was just like, oh, it's us on the internet, and then there's things happening in real life, and now we're getting the things that are happening in real life pulled through the internet into us, and we have another.
We had Will Buxton.
Yes.
And I said, Jenny, we got to keep up the momentum. We got to send you out whale hunting.
Yeah, that's right.
And we got ourselves a fucking whale.
We got ourselves a whale. We're honored to have him on the pod. Formula One journalist, Lawrence Barretto. Welcome to the Red Flags.
Guys, what an intro. Like, that is incredible. Thank you very much. I'm no whale. I'm no whale, but if you think I am, I'll take that. Thanks, guys.
No, you're
Thanks.
a whale.
You're a whale.
Listen,
baby. You went karting against Lando Norris, which is on my bucket list of things to do. Lawrence, you know, I was both proud of you and angry at you. Two laps. Okay, let's just start. Like, I need to start here because this is like you got to live out a dream of mine. Because in my delusional brain, I think that if I had known about what Formula One was as a child, that I could have been a Formula One driver. I must imagine that was a part of your brain as well as a kid.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I wanted to be a racing driver. I wanted to be a Formula One driver. But then I got in a go-kart. And as you saw when I went up against Lando Norris, I'm no good, not only in a go-kart, but just a general racing ability. I lack it massively.
Okay, what?
Massively.
And at least Brian could blame his weight.
Right.
You really got nothing.
Yeah.
You got no excuse, right?
No, it's embarrassing if I'm honest. Like I got there. What was really funny about that day though, right? I got there and Lando's such a dude, right? So we get on really well and I got there and he barely spoke to me, barely said a word to me. And I was like, Lando, everything all right? Everything all right? And he was like, yeah. Get to the go-karts. I've never driven one of these go-karts before. I've done an electric go-kart at best. I was like, Lando, any tips? He's like, nah, you'll be fine. He basically, it was insane. He genuinely was scared to go up against me. He was like, you're like a jockey weight. You weigh nothing. That's going to give you like tenths of a second off. I'm like, no, Lando, really, really. I need all the help I can get. We got in the car and I struggled to get the thing going. And he's like, oh, actually, I'm not that worried about you. But he still wanted to go and absolutely cane it round there just to be sure, just to like send out that message that Lawrence, you're not coming anywhere near me.
I see. So that actually, you know what? That makes me feel a lot better about my idol Lando Norris. That he's a savage competitor, even when he's going up against an F1 journalist.
No, this is good insight that he's got that dog in him.
That is good insight.
Yeah.
That he's look at this. It's a cute thing for like the Formula One YouTube channel. No. Every day's a competition. I'm gonna fuck you up, Lawrence.
But it's like fighting your baby, like your brother, like you have nothing, but he could only lose in this situation.
Oh, exactly. And he just didn't want to lose.
Yeah. So wait, what was the like, if you thought about like your karting on that day, like what, as you saw Lando like do those laps, I know you talked about it a little bit on the video, but like, what was the stark difference between how you watch a guy like him take laps around a karting track versus like your experience doing in the same kart on the same track?
I think the thing that really struck me was that he almost hovered over the track. So it was like there was a bit of air between the wheels and the tarmac and he was just basically floating around the track. That's how like effortlessly he was going round. And then I'm behind the wheel, fighting the wheel, stressed that I'm going to lose it in every single corner. Every single turn is a stress, basically. And this guy's basically just coasting it around with his fingers on the wheel, like really delicately doing it. And he's getting the lap time out of there like nobody's business. It was something pretty phenomenal to see like up close. I've never seen a Formula One driver in that kind of environment just absolutely nail it lap after lap after lap.
Right.
What was the time delta, you think, between between you guys?
Oh, do we have to talk about that? I don't think we really want to have to talk about that.
It was like 26 seconds, dude.
You know what? I can't actually remember, but I'm pretty sure it was something like a 30, 35, 36 second lap. It definitely wasn't 20 seconds, but it was probably like 7 or 8 seconds. So like a third of the lap he would complete before me. So that's why he was able to kind of nearly lap me twice.
And after he beat you there was a total key change. He was nice again.
Yeah. Was it chill after that, or was he kind of like I'm out?
Oh no, he was super cool after that. Yeah, we did a great interview after that. We hung out for a bit in the garage. Like he was super, like he genuinely is a super nice guy. So that he's your idol is cool because I genuinely do endorse that. He's a cool dude. But what I really loved about it was because he's really good friends with Carlos Sainz, and I played squash with Carlos quite a lot, and I generally beat Carlos. So I think there was something in his head that obviously is completely different sports, but I think there was something in his head that was like, I'm not going to be like, it's embarrassing for an elite athlete to get beaten by a journalist.
Wait, so you beat Carlos Sainz in squash?
Yes, Junior. Yeah, Carlos Sainz Jr. I beat him at squash. Yes.
Wow.
He's like, you're like, senior, I don't want to touch. I'm not fucking touching Carlos Sainz. Senior, I don't know what. Because it seems like Carlos is kind of like good at everything. He seems like a jack of all trades. So that is an impressive. I mean, I feel like these guys really, between the paddle, they really kind of, they're competitive at all times. What was the vibe like when you beat him in squash?
But it also seemed like you wanted to say something about senior squash.
Oh, yeah.
So senior is a 2-time national champion at squash.
Right.
So he's got the pedigree, right? And then, I've played him a few times now, and he's mid-60s. Guys, it's embarrassing. He just stands in the tee and he just owns me every time I'm on the court. So that's why I specified, because senior would come after me if I didn't clarify that it's junior that I beat, not senior.
So let's be straight. So you sometimes beat junior.
90 to 95% of the time I beat junior, yeah.
Wow! And senior crushes you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, let's be clear that senior must absolutely destroy his son at squash.
Probably.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So wait, did you grow up playing squash? Is that where does the skill set come from?
Yeah, that was my thing. When I was younger, squash was just the sport. Me and my sister did it, and then I played it kind of all my life. So I'm at a reasonable level. We played at like county level, so just below national level. And then I've just kept it up. So it's my one calling card, the one thing I can kind of take on a Formula One driver at.
Have you played other drivers at squash?
Yeah, so I played Charles, and I've beaten him.
Yes, let's go. Yes. Let's go, Lawrence. Talk your shit,
look,
dude.
Lawrence, are you the best? Are you the best athlete in the paddock?
Well, if you ask Carlos Sainz, yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. It's a real sport, right? Yeah, that right it is.
You're beating these elite athletes in real sports.
I'm obsessed.
Wait, so who have you smacked
so
around?
Charles, you beat
Charles.
Oh no, this is sad because it ends here. It's just those two. But that's still pretty cool. I've beaten Jolyon Palmer, ex-F1 driver. That's still pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So, that's it. Senior.
So is the best athlete in the paddock actually Carlos Senior?
Yeah, technically, yeah. Like the guys in the gym every single day. Like he is an absolute machine of a man. Like, unbelievable. So yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Wow.
I love it. How surreal is that? I mean, we want to get a little bit into like, your career, your life. Like, how surreal is it for you? Do you take moments where like you pinch yourself? I know that like you have friendships with these guys, you see them at the airports, you see them around the track, but then when you're like doing this thing that you grew up playing squash, and all of a sudden you're like with Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc playing squash against them. Like, how surreal are those moments for you? What would 11-year-self Lawrence say to yourself in those moments?
That he would say that would never happen. Like he would say it would dream, and you can dream about it, and it would never happen. In the moments when I'm on court with them or we're hanging out, doing something non-F1 related, you do have those seconds where it's like you're chatting to your mates, and then you're in a different universe suddenly, and you're like, oh my God, am I genuinely in this position? Because it's really cool. And I know I'm super lucky to have like the opportunities that I get to hang out with these elite athletes and and essentially make friends with people around the world. It's a pretty cool thing to do. And yeah, I pinch myself all the time. Beating them is pretty cool.
Well, I think maybe I want to like hear a little bit about like your, where you fell in love with Formula One. I'm curious about like what it was like as a young kid in the UK, like who was obsessed with Formula One, because I think like from the American side of things, we think that it's a thing that like, oh, everyone in Europe loves Formula One, but from everything I understand, it's like it is still and was even more like niche at the time. Like where did that love first take hold, and like what was it kind of like life? What was life like as like a kid in school who was like, I'm actually into Formula One, guys? Like, what was that?
I'm into squash and Formula One.
I'm into squash and Formula One.
Fuck your soccer.
Yeah, you probably think
the
that I was
Premier
the kid
League.
in the corner, right? Who no one wanted to talk to because I was interested in Formula One and squash. No, I was super lucky that my best mate, who's still my best mate and was the best man at my wedding, loved Formula One as well. So we kind of had something to chat about kind of since we were 4 or 5 years old. And then we would be the ones who'd go together to like the British Grand Prix when we were old enough to do that, or we'd go to British touring car races, that kind of thing. But I got into it because my dad loved Formula One. He was a massive Senna fan. He'd always have it on the telly. We had this like show called Grandstand on a Saturday afternoon, and it was like 3 hours of just all sorts of sports, and they'd cut from Formula One to football to cricket to rugby. And so I would just watch all sport, and Formula One was like a segment of this show that was on at the weekend. And, I was just fascinated. I loved cars. I loved racing cars. I loved computer games and doing racing games and that kind of thing. And I had dreams at that point of maybe trying go-karting or being a racing driver. So for me, it was just a pretty cool thing to follow and stuff. And I loved going to events. My dad took me to British touring car events in the UK, like saloon car racing. He took me to British Grand Prix loads. So I just like, the smell of petrol, watching racing cars on track, going fast, the speed, that kind of thing.
Who was your guy? Who were your guys?
Yeah, who did you love?
I was a Schumacher fan, which was difficult for basically anywhere else I knew in the UK because they were obviously Damon Hill fans at the time. Yeah, and, Williams was a huge team and Schumacher wasn't that well liked, obviously in the way that he won that championship in 1994 when he collided with Damon. So it was difficult, but I don't know. Honestly, I'm not sure why I went for Schumacher at that point. Like, I thought he was cool. I thought he was fast. He wanted to win. And I think I like that determination about him. Obviously he went over the line a couple of times, but I like that, like, sheer determination to do whatever he had to take to win. And maybe he was a bit of an underdog in the UK. So maybe I like that kind of vibe. Like, everyone wanted Damon to win and I kind of wanted Schumacher to win.
You're a contrarian.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And that was it really. And that was kind of how I followed Formula One.
Well, that was it. You picked a good guy to support. You must have had a good, you enjoyed those years.
But you picked a tough place to like him.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right. Like over those 5 years at Ferrari, when he basically won everything, it was pretty cool for me because my guy was winning. And when you're a kid, right, all you really care about is your team or your driver winning. Like, and that's all that matters when you're chatting to your friends about it. And it's not so much about the quality of the show at that point. You just want to win because you want your guy to win. So it was a cool time. It was a cool time for me, kind of growing up. And then I became a Ferrari fan just because I wanted a Ferrari when I was a kid. And so that's the kind of thing that, kind of got me into it.
What is your friend? Okay, so you said your best friend growing up, he was best man at your wedding. I assume he doesn't work in the Formula One space at all, right?
He did actually, yeah.
Oh,
so
he did?
I went into journalism, he went into PR communications. So for a long time, we were working in the paddock at the same time. Now that was an absolute like crikey moment because, the fact that we were both in a primary school one day wanting to do it and then we're both in a paddock. He was working for Red Bull at the time. We had this photo in Bahrain together and it's just quite a cool memory that we both made it basically. We both got there.
That's so great.
And Brian was telling me before, so you like very early on, like Doogie Howser, just like, I want to be a journalist. And when you were like a teenager, did you interview Bernie Ecclestone? Is that true?
Yes. Yeah. So
how old were you?
Oh, no, I was at university. So I was 18, 19. So towards the end of my teenage years. But I was super lucky, firstly, to know exactly what I wanted to do. I was pretty bloody minded about it. I decided when I was in year 9 at school that I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to work in Formula One. I wanted to be a pit lane reporter. And when my career advisor told me, no, you should probably aim a little bit lower and go and work for the Yellow Bus Company. That was the local bus company in the county. I was like, yeah, no, that's not for me. Nothing wrong with working for that company, by the way, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. And, I think because of number of people kind of along the way kind of suggesting that you can't do it. That almost made me want to do it a little bit more. And that gave me the confidence to do things like I got Bernie's number. Someone gave me Bernie's number. So I called Bernie's number.
Who gave you Bernie's number?
I can't honestly tell you that live on air. But,
Okay.
but someone who is a very good friend of mine now and was very supportive kind of as I was coming through
I see.
journalism gave me the number. And he was like, well, what's the worst can happen? Like he'll either not pick up or he'll pick up and he'll give you a lesson, basically. No, it was his direct line because I'm pretty sure he barely used his mobile phone. I'm pretty sure he barely uses it now, but it was his direct line into his office. And you know what? Part of me probably thought his PA will pick it up or it will go to a switchboard. He generally, few rings in, picked it up. It was, I'm sweating thinking about it now. Yeah, I'm sweating.
Yeah.
It was, like I'm generally getting warm thinking about it because it was stressful because he's done it's on it and he's like asking you questions. And I'm surprised he didn't hang up on me, frankly, when he realized who I was because I was nobody essentially at the time. I was just this uni student winging it, got his number. Maybe he liked the fact that I'd managed to find the number. I was maybe shrewd enough to have a go at trying to call him. Maybe I caught him on a good moment in time. Maybe just on a big money deal and he was happy. And he was like, I'll take this call from this uni student. So, he was pretty cool. And then what was great about it is then when I went into the paddock, maybe it'd been about 7 or 8 years until I made it into the paddock as a full-time reporter. And it was my second or third race. And it was cool because I went up to him and he obviously didn't know what I looked like at the time, but he remembered the phone call and he remembered how he gave me a hard time on it. And he remembered the kind of topics and stuff we talked to. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I always had a pretty good relationship with him, even though I kind of worked with him towards the end of his time in Formula One.
Sure. What was he giving you a hard time about? Like, what was the, what?
Well, yeah, what was he breaking your balls about?
It was mostly that as soon as I finished asking the question and he's answering it and then it's like two or three words. So then you have to come straight back in with a question. And if you don't keep asking the questions, there's dead air. And he loves the fact that he's basically putting you under pressure, right? He wants to make you work hard. He wants to see if you've got it. He wants to see if you've prepped. He wants to see if you've done your research. He wants to see if you've got enough questions to outlast him in this interview. And I'd seen interviews like that before. So like I'd had reams and reams of like stuff that I could ask him and stuff. But then you start thinking, have I definitely got this fact right? Have I got this right? And he does kind of ask like lots of questions back at you, which I was never really used to. I was ready to ask him the next question. So, but it made me a better interview, I think, because that was by far the hardest interview I've ever done. I was just so stressed.
Was your first one?
Was your first?
You went right to the final, literally the final boss.
Yeah, that's
your
true.
first F1 interview. That's crazy.
Yeah, you're Mario fighing Bowser, like level one.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, that's great. So you have that experience in uni. You're on this path. This is what you want to do. Like, what are the steps then towards? Because I know you worked in, a few different sports publications, but you were covering like sports in general with a focus on Formula One. Like, what was your path towards, where you are now?
So I did this pretty cool competition called the Bridgestone e-Reporter competition. So Bridgestone were the tyre supplier to Formula One at the time. They invited 14 journalists from around the world, uni students, to each Grand Prix if you entered the competition and they approved your essay and stuff. And they took me to the 2006 Hungarian Grand Prix. So that was one that Jenson Button won in the rain, his first win. And it was when Lewis was coming through GP2. So that was my first opportunity to ever meet and talk to Lewis. And at the time, he was a pretty big deal. Maybe we weren't sure he'd be the deal he's become, but we thought he was something pretty special. And so I had the opportunity to kind of interview him there. And I remember meeting his dad and we sat on the back of the GP2 garages, which are just these awnings effectively, just a pop-up tent. And we're sat on the back of these tool garages, the jaws with all the screws and whatever, just having a chat. And I remember thinking at that point that if I could kind of get through this day and interview these drivers and not screw it up and kind of have a little bit of respect from them, that maybe this is the kind of job that I wanted to do. And I kind of got through that whole weekend and Lewis still remembers, which is pretty cool, that moment when we first met. What was that? 20 years ago now. And, I got to the end of that day and I left that competition. I was like, right, I'm just going to do whatever I can to try and get back into that paddock as like a proper journalist. So I worked for any newspaper that would take me as work experience. I worked at property magazines, construction websites. Like I literally just went out to try and get as many like pieces for my scrapbook to show that, I was trying really hard. I was trying to get the doors in. And then I went to Wimbledon, the tennis tournament in the UK, and I met the editor of Sport magazine there. And I just said, "Oh, look, have you got any jobs going?" And he was like, "I don't know." And then he called me about a week later and he was like, "You know what? I remember you came up to me. Do you want to just come in and have a chat?" And so I went in and had a chat. He gave me a job as a staff writer. And because everyone loved football, cricket, rugby, they were the big three sports in the UK at the time. He was like, "Well, you can do Formula One if you want to." I was like, "Really? Really? I can do Formula One?" Like straight away. He was like, yeah, go for it. And within that first year, I managed to get an interview at Lewis, Jensen and Valentino Rossi. And then within 3 years, I'd got Michael, who I really wanted, Michael Schumacher. And through Monster Energy drinks, they flew me out to Valencia to the European Grand Prix there when he was at Mercedes. And I remember I've still got the photo up on my wall, and we had the interview up on the top of the Mercedes unit, and he went and made me a cup of tea. Like, he physically went to the kettle and made me a cup of British English tea. And he was like, "How much milk do you want?" "Not a lot." Right. And I was like, "How do you know all of this stuff? This is like amazing."
Know your competition.
Yeah. And there I was having a cup of tea with my hero, which was pretty spectacular. So that's kind of the story, really. I just battled my way in.
Was that your actually biggest interview? Look, was that the high watermark for you in terms of Goosebumps?
Yeah, in terms of Goosebumps, I think so, because growing up, obviously, I'd watched him on telly and aspired to be not a world champion like him, but someone as determined and successful as he was in whatever field I was going to try and do. And then to meet the guy and to see that he was interested in me. And I remember we were talking about running, and he was giving me some tips on like how to ease the pain I was getting in my knee when I was running. And like, it was little things like that where I thought, actually, you're just another guy. No, I'm talking to you're of course, you're the greatest, in my opinion, Formula One driver to ever live. But like, you're also just a normal person. And I'm so glad that that was the case, because obviously I spent a lot of time supporting him. A lot of, people around the world spend time supporting him. They buy his merchandise, they support him. And he is a good guy. So I think that was that moment in time when I was doing the interviews. He was answering the questions. He didn't think I was rubbish at my job, because he definitely would have told me, or he would have cut the interview short. And we ran about half an hour long. I think that was the moment that, for several things, that I kind of achieved a massive goal, that I realized I could definitely do the job if I kept working hard at it. And see that, like, if I don't get to do anything ever again, like from an interview perspective, I've kind of got to do this. So yeah, it was definitely like right up there. But the reason why I paused when you asked that is just because I do so many cool things now. Like, I'm so lucky. Every other week I'm doing, completely mental things. Like, to even think that I did that thing with Lando Norris go-karting, that I played squash with Carlos, that, a couple of weeks ago I played tennis with Oscar Piastri. The fact that I'm saying all of these things as if they're normal still makes me pinch myself. So I'm just lucky that I've done so many things that like high watermark kind of things.
Right.
Okay, wait, how was tennis with Oscar? What's
he beat me. That annoyed me.
He beat you?
Yeah.
How bad?
Oh no, it was close. We went into the final tiebreaker, so I'm pretty sure it was 3-2, I think. Yeah. So
what's his game? Is he serving volley? Is he a grinder? What's his game?
He is a grinder with a good topspin. So I thought that he might try and like cut the points. So come in, serve, volley, and like keep the points short. But actually, no, he was like that. My game is to slow everything down. So I like a backspin slice and stuff. But I was annoyed with myself. I just didn't play to my peak ability that day. And he won. And then you probably, oh God, this is embarrassing because I really was irritated that I lost. But,
that's great.
Do you think you're going to be more contentious with him in your next interview because he beat you?
No, I can't.
You're going to be like, so Oscar, you're having trouble with your tires these days. Like, you're just going to come in hard.
You're going to come in and be like, well, a lot of wheel spin, a lot of top spin on your wheels there, buddy.
What I'm pushing for a rematch, because that's what I really want. I want to avenge my defeat.
You have these moments, but you were talking about like, you got to interview Lewis early days. And you and him clearly have like a friendly relationship, because there was this clip of, early on this season where he was.
I know what you're
Talk
going to
about
say.
moments where you felt like you were going to shit yourself. Like, did you when you were like, so Lewis, we're here. Like, how you feeling about today? And he was like, you ranked me pretty low in your drivers rankings. Now, here's the thing, Lawrence, you're looking like your ranking was correct right now. So,
Oh, well, that's true. Yes, thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate that. Thank you.
But in that moment, like, did you when he throws a curveball at you like that, does your stomach just fall to the floor? Did you feel like cool, calm, and collected in that moment?
Oh, absolutely not cool, calm, and collected. Like, I just got owned by Lewis Hamilton on international television. It was, he was in such a good mood that day as well, which was funny because he was jokey as he was coming up and we were having a bit of chit chat beforehand. And I was like, oh, this is, normally he's got game face on at that point on the driver's parade. And then when he said it, obviously like time stood still. And then I've watched it back and it happened much quicker than it happened in my head. I remember looking across and looking at my producer like, what's happened? And this will happen in like super time. And to be honest, he could have completely gone in on me and gone, well, why did you do it? But he didn't. He stopped, which was nice of him. But you're right. I got it right. P7. That's where, I said he was P7.
I mean, he's
Lawrence,
in P9 right now. He's in
finish,
P9 right now. Right now, you're being generous to the guy.
If he finishes P8, P9, Lawrence, are you going to shove it back in his face? Be like, turns out I was nice to you.
I was thinking about, that final driver's parade, if I get the chance to do it, if I do mention it, it's going to be hard not to, right, guys? How can I not bring it up? Like,
I mean, the internet would love it.
Yeah.
The internet would love it.
Here's the other thing.
Listen, he's going to win a championship with Ferrari. He's good. He's chilling.
Yeah. And
He probably
so how do
is,
you balance? How do you balance? Because we just say whatever we want, and then like years later, we meet some of these guys. And we're like, oh my god! But like, you actually have a relationship with these guys,
right?
So how do you balance your journalistic integrity with keeping a good relationship with these guys and like asking the questions that fans want to hear and knowing that you might piss these guys off? How do you balance that?
It's tricky. I think what I try to do is just always be fair. So even if I ask like a really tough question or a question that annoys them at the time, if I'm being fair and it's a fair question to ask, then I think they'll always not forgive you, but they won't take it personally and they won't like hold it against you kind of going forward. I think my experience or of seeing maybe other people interviewing, or if I've made an error in something that I've said, is I think drivers or any athlete you interview, they get annoyed if you just say the wrong thing or you're trying to coax them into saying something they don't want to say, or you're trying to get a headline. And so my technique is never that. My technique is to ask the questions that people want to hear. And sometimes that's a tough question. You can ask a hard question fairly. And so that's what I try to do. But you're right. I talk to these guys 4 or 5 times a weekend, and then that's every other weekend across the year. So I've got to kind of maintain a relationship. But what I'm super lucky about is because I'm doing 19 races this year. Because you spend that time with them and they get to trust you. And if they trust you and you build that relationship, if you have a bad day and you ask a question that maybe isn't right at the time, they're not mostly going to hold it against you because they know you're good. They know that they can trust you. They know that you're only trying to do your job, and that, sometimes I'm interviewing 20 drivers and I don't get to look up or down for like 20 straight minutes because it's one guy comes, then leaves, and the next one comes in, and they get that like sometimes people make mistakes. So I haven't been owned that often in my career. I've been pretty lucky, I think.
Yeah. There are some other times where you've been like, oh fuck, like this guy, like, the Lewis one, what was nice about that is like, he was cheeky about it. It was like more of a fun moment than anything. Like what are some moments, maybe with some guys that maybe are retired, you can talk maybe a little bit more freely about or something?
Well, no, to be honest, no one has ever like massively had a go at me. I know that's a bit disappointing, but no one's massively had a go at me. But like Nico Hülkenberg, who hasn't retired yet, is one of the really tough interviews I find, because he likes to play with you. He likes to try and trip you up because it's fun for him. It's like sport for him when he's being interviewed, especially if it's someone new. He kind of just wants to test the water, see like how back chatty he can be. Not in a nasty way, just in like, he wants to see if he can trip you up. So Nico Hülkenberg, is definitely one of the tougher ones to interview. Like the other day, I interviewed Lando and I said to him, well done on his top 10 when he was in his top 3, and he instantly picked me up on it. Right. And I'm like, well, actually, factually, what I said was correct because he wasn't in the top 10. But like, it's little things like that you make slip ups because you're doing things so quickly, and these kind of things happen.
Sure. Were you? How much of that Nico? Like, how long ago did you know that Nico was going to Sauber? Because it seems like a lot of people knew, but like, when did that? I mean, it's just broken. It's out now. But like, how much before?
Yeah. What's the lead time?
Yeah. What's the lead time on like these news items? Sometimes I know that like it catches everyone by surprise, but like a news item like that, like a month ago.
When do you know versus the normal people?
Versus
obviously
when
we knew months ago.
Yeah,
well,
we
of
knew
course.
4 years ago because
Yeah.
we're so in the know. But what's the lead time on that?
So I think there's different stages. So I would say towards the end of last year, say October, November, I was pretty certain from the sources that I had that Hülkenberg was one of the 2 drivers they wanted. So I was certain that they wanted him then, that they were talking to him then, that the ball had started to roll. Then I'd say maybe 2 weeks out, what would it have been? 2 weeks out, there was rumblings that it was about to be done, various reasons behind that. And then I reckon it was 4 days, when did it come out? Yeah, it was 4 days before that I knew for certain he'd signed.
I see.
And so by then,
Gotcha.
yeah, so it kind of bubbles along like that.
And if you had to guess, what do you think the driver lineup at Stake F1 Kick Team Sauber is next year?
I think it's probably going to end up being Sainz and Hülkenberg. And I think that if Sainz is honest, then in an ideal world, he'll hold out for Red Bull and see what happens there. He'll hold out, which I think is a long shot, for Mercedes and see what happens there. He'll consider Williams, but I think ultimately he'll have to take the Audi project and reassess like his game plan to make it a long-term project, I think, which is remarkable when if you look at him being probably the second best driver in pure performance so far this year behind Max, that he isn't able to drive a car that will give him even a podium chance next year. And that's just the reality of it, that he'll be fighting to get out of Q1. It's going to be tough if that's what ends up happening.
Why do you think nobody wants your boy?
I don't think it's nobody wants him. I think it's just a scenario where both McLaren seats are taken. He's lost his seat to the greatest driver in his generation. He's the Red Bull seat is there's so much difficulty at the minute about what's Max going to do. So Red Bull have this whole thing about, well, we need to work out the makeup of that team. Do we want to put 2 drivers together who are like high end, or, what's their strategy there? Mercedes, he's come in at a time when they really want to get Kimi Antonelli in because they don't want to miss out. Toto doesn't want to miss out on Max. So it's more that it's not that people don't want him. It's just he's in a scenario, honestly, I think, where too many other things are going on that are out of his control. And there were also a number of teams like Aston Martin. They couldn't say no to Fernando because they want Fernando, said they wanted in. And Lance basically takes one of those other seats. So it's just a scenario where there just isn't one available rather than people are overlooking him, if that makes sense.
Well, it seems like there's, the rep with Carlos is that like what he's going up against are like the phenom boy wonders. There's like, between Max, between Kimi, between Charles, Lewis, it's like he's kind of had this career where like, he came in, there was people weren't really sure about him. And
unheralded.
He's been a journeyman and he's actually like gotten stronger as he's been and now he's like gotten to the point where he's maybe this like really strong driver. But then you have, Toto is still like kicking himself every night that he didn't sign Max when he was 16, and now he's like
projecting all this onto Kimi.
He's projecting all of this years of regret onto Kimi Antonelli when it's like, well, maybe the car might be part of the issue. But anyway, I think do you think that's it's an interesting thing how people view these drivers, and we fall into it too. We certainly like, Charles had like the pedigree, like he won F3, he won F2, like he came in, he was boy wonder. He came in, he has that year at Sauber, he comes in, he ruins Vettel's career.
Yeah.
Like, and Carlos is more of this kind of like middle survivor guy. Is that how kind of the larger paddock sees him? Is that narrative follow him?
I think there is something in that he doesn't fall into that pool of like super naturally talented drivers like a Lando, like a Charles, like a Max. But I think he probably falls into that pack of like a Nico Rosberg, but better, and a Jenson Button, but better. And so I think that's why people do believe that he can win a world championship, but you need all the kind of factors to line up. And so Jenson obviously had that super brawn year, didn't he, where it opened up. Nico had that year where he managed to crack Lewis that one time. So I think that he just is in this generation where I liken him to Alan Prost, actually. And Alan Prost was a 4-time world champion, and he was very much like a grinder. He kind of went through it, not naturally talented like Ayrton Senna. So I think it just depends on where you are in the sport, at what time, what your opportunities are like. Like he came in at the same time as Max, which meant even though he's in the Red Bull family, he never really had a shot at the works team. So that ruled that out, for example. Then you're linked to Red Bull, so that at that time ruled you out of basically anywhere else at the time. He had to fight tooth and nail to get out, to get to Renault. And by then he'd gone to a team that, were nowhere, mid-pack kind of thing. So I think it's just circumstances. There are 20 seats on the grid, right, every single year. And you've got to make, Fernando Alonso is a great example. You can be as naturally talented as him, and you can make mistakes for 2 decades in where you're going to go and not get anywhere near the number of titles you're going to do. So he's a really good example of the fact that you can be great and not going on to fulfill the number of, titles, wins, poles, whatever that you should get.
What do you think what's the sense of outrage and frustration that's coming from the Sainz camp at the moment, if you're aware of any?
I mean, they're a motor racing family, so they understand how it works. So I wouldn't say that there's outrage. I think there is there is frustration and disappointment at the way that it is the way the chips have fallen. What I would say is I think generally speaking, the Sainzes probably feel like they've always been considered the underdogs, that I think they've always been considered like an outsider, even though their boy has done what they feel he needs to do to impress. I think for whatever reason, he's come up against Charles, and Charles was the chosen one, for example. He came up against Max, and Max was the chosen one. So I think there is that perception that maybe he hasn't always had a fair run of it. But you know what? He's still pretty young. Fernando is shown, and Lewis and Kimi showed as well. You can go well into your 40s if you want to.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world if this next step isn't. But there is a great deal of frustration, I think, that he's in a spot where he can't get the machinery that warrants the kind of form he's in at the minute. And, I can understand that.
One of the rumors, one of the things that it's been more than rumors is talked about is like the relationship between Carlos Sr. and Yas, and that was a tense relationship when they were at Toro Rosso. Do you think that there's worry there with it, beyond the fact that like Carlos is at the top of his game right now, it might be a different situation than it was at Toro Rosso. Is there concern that the dads are going to be like, fighting
dads?
Little league dads fighting in the bullpen when the sons are on the track?
I mean, personally, I personally, knowing them both individually, and knowing where they are at their stage in their lives and their sons' relative careers, I don't think there is any worry between them about having an issue. I think Jos will be pretty comfortable with how good Max is and their status in the team. I think Carlos is pretty comfortable with how good his son is. So I actually don't think there would be. Do Red Bull think there is? Well, that might be a reason why they won't pair them together. But personally, I don't think there's any real needle there, personally.
Do we want to discuss what's the environment like at Red Bull currently? I mean, we've heard it's all but confirmed that Newey's leaving.
Right. Yeah. I guess it's like now there's a ton of speculation as to like the Newey leaving. We're like convinced that he's going to Ferrari. People in our comments are like, he's retiring. You guys are fucking idiots. It's not happening. But I don't know. Sky Sports, the BBC, everyone's reporting it. I don't know. Like, what can you shed any light as to like what the temperature is over there? What the Newey news, like how people are responding to it? How legitimate is it? Where you are hearing that what his next moves are?
I can't give you any exclusives because then I would be being very bad at my job and not giving exclusives to my employer. No, I'm joking. But I think what's really interesting in Formula 1 at the minute is that we have had lots of these big stories. Started the year with Gunter leaving Haas. You had Lewis joining Ferrari. You've obviously got this speculation about what Adrian Newey's going to do going forward. And actually, this has been bubbling along for quite some time now. I was going back into the archives and looking, and, Adrian said last year only that, twice he turned down Ferrari beforehand. They'd come calling. I know for a fact that half the grid, have at some point gone to Adrian and said, do you fancy coming to my team? So let's not forget that even though the story is kind of rearing its head now, people have been chasing Newey for more than a decade to try and entice him to come in. whether or not he's going to decide that ultimately this is the time in which he's going to go, honestly, I'm not sure whether that is the case. But I think what is good for Formula One now is that people are talking about it. It's a great story to discuss, what is the greatest technician designer in the sport going to do next? Is he going to go, like you suggested, to Ferrari and kind of complete the set, having worked at Williams and McLaren and won championships with them and Red Bull? Is he going to try something else and go to a different team like Aston Martin? Will he go back to McLaren or Williams? Or is he going to retire? Like you said, I was reading the other day that he'd commissioned to, have, I think, his own yacht built. He might want to go off and spend a year on his new yacht. Yeah. So the beauty of it is, I think it's up to him, obviously, what he wants to do. It feels like this weekend in Miami, there's going to be a lot of discussion about it because it's the first time that the paddock will have got back together essentially as a collective since those stories were breaking late last week. And I do think it's going to be a big talking point.
Do you think this is the beginning of the end of Red Bull?
Do I think it's the beginning of the end? No, because I think honestly, any team is bigger than one person. I think we've seen that throughout the sport. When Lewis left McLaren, we thought it would be a big thing. When Lewis now has just said they're leaving Mercedes, thought it would be a big thing. Ultimately, these teams are made up of thousands of people. And yeah, of course, one person can have a significant impact on it. But I don't think that one person leaving is going to be the end. And look, ultimately, even if more people do leave because of it, Red Bull is such a huge organization. They're so determined to win. They've just invested so much money in that power unit plant that they've built on their
But it's a
factory.
couple of people. But it could be a couple of people. Like that's what happened with Ferrari, right? Is, Michael retired, Rory left, Braun left, then Jean Todt retired, and then it's like, then they're fucking nowhere pretty much.
But it's kind of cyclical though, isn't it, in Formula One? Like Mercedes are now going through this period of difficult times, having dominated for 8 years. Red Bull went through that period after they won 4 championships with Vettel. Ferrari went through that period after Schumacher dominated. Williams went through that period after they dominated in the 90s. You're right that when people leave, it does tend to have an impact. Mercedes, they lost Mike Elliott, for example, their chief technical officer. People have lost big people kind of along the way. They lost Andy Cowell, their engine chief as well. But also that's life, right? People aren't going to stay in the same job forever. People move on. Right. People want to go and try new challenges. And so I think, it might have a detrimental impact on Red Bull ultimately. But it's just not that it can't be the beginning of the end.
Not necessarily, but the end of the maybe of the domination. And I guess you mentioned the power unit and the rumblings around the power unit is that it's that it ain't all that and that maybe they bit off a little bit more than they can chew. I don't know, what are the rumblings around that? Is this power? Because from what we understand or what we hear, the 2026 regs are going to be a bit more engine dependent, a la the Mercedes years, than they are, aero dependent, than they are ground effects. So I think I know Red Bull took this gamble. They're like, Honda, we're good. We're going to make our own stuff. But what we're hearing is that maybe, these engines aren't going to be that great. Can you speak to any of that?
I think what you said about Mercedes being probably very excited about the prospect of having a new set of regs, given what they did with the hybrid turbos, I think they're going to be in pretty damn good shape. Now, whether that is relative to Red Bull and obviously Audi coming in doing a bad job, I think what you'll probably see is the new manufacturers like Red Bull powertrains with Ford and Audi, they will struggle to start with. I think they'll struggle with reliability because the reality is they've not run an engine in real life before. And I think they will struggle on the power side just because, again, it's a new venture, just like Honda struggled. Do you remember when they came into the sport? Yeah. But I think that the curve of both of those manufacturers will be quite steep because I think they will have the know-how to learn quickly. But I think I would be surprised if Mercedes and Ferrari aren't the leading power unit suppliers. Right. Just because they've been so good at responding to each regulation change and they've got decades and decades of back data. So they just know what they're doing. And relatively speaking, Red Bull powertrains and Audi started later than the others did, the incumbents did. That's just the reality of it. So when you start later, even if you're the best engine manufacturer in the world, you can't make up time. You just can't catch time back up. So
can you explain something to me? What the hell happened with Honda and
how long have you got?
Like it's just like they had this beautiful relationship. Then they leave. They help Red Bull set up their own shop, and then they're like, "Wait, never mind. We want back in. Oh, Red Bull, you're doing your own thing now. We'll just go to Aston Martin." Why did they ever leave? What happened?
Yeah, well, Honda feels like they have such an interesting relationship with Formula One.
They're like commitment. They're like avoidance.
Well, they've had all this they've had these traumatic. They have all this trauma with F1. Yeah. They the Brawn. They had the team. They sold it to Brawn for £1. Then they come back with McLaren. It's a nightmare. Alonso famously said GP2 engine ruins that relationship, but now maybe they can repair some of that. And then they're in Red Bull. And we're out. No, actually, we're going over to Aston. Like, what is that? What's just commit? Put a ring on it.
They can't commit. They just can't do it. And it's a pride thing. And I think Honda came back into Formula One so let's go back to when they came back with McLaren. I think they came back in and they thought that they could be competitive quickly. And I think, 2 years in, 3 years in, to them, it was becoming embarrassing. It's embarrassing back home for them to be struggling so much. So that's why they decided that, they couldn't continue with McLaren anymore, and they wanted to go to another. Obviously, they ended up with Toro Rosso at the time, out of the spotlight to have another go. The problem is they just can't. It's really hard to convince the board members of the wider Honda company.
They win.
Yeah,
they won.
But the point at which they'd already decided to leave way before the point at which they started to win. Right. So, it was too late to reverse the decision once they started winning. So then they started, obviously there was that time when they're like, well, actually, we will stay and we'll help you, Red Bull, with the engine that we've given you, you to use. But by then, Red Bull probably took your view and they were like, well, Honda are going to leave again. So we can't trust this. So that's why Ford came calling and they took them. And then Honda were like, well, hang on, we can win. And the board are loving it now, aren't they? They're going around calling themselves the world champions, whatever. And then so Aston Martin came calling and said, well, come and work for us then. But I feel bad for Honda, right? Because they gave all of their good people to Red Bull because they're all still working on this project. They sold their...
and now they're stuck with Alonso, who hates them.
So on that, I think they buried the hatchet there. It's a completely new board. It's a new board. It's new senior management in. And, ultimately, it goes back to the same thing. They want to win. And they know Fernando's good. Look at the guy. And they know that if he can do what he's done with the Aston Martin project currently, there is an inherent belief that he can take them to become world champions. So, I'm excited to see what they can do, really. Although, actually, Audi...
If they get Adrian Newey.
Well,
if they get Adrian Newey on top of that, that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, what's your best Alonso story?
Oh yeah, we're obsessed with him. So any
I got my Alonso shirt on right now.
Why are you guys so obsessed with him? Just out of interest.
What do you mean? He's the greatest driver to ever live, and we like how all the other drivers, they try to put out positive energy. He's so unabashedly himself, and so unabashedly sort of the villain. And he's so talented, but he's got a tragic flaw, which is there's something very Shakespearean or something about him, where that he can't get out of his own way, despite his immense talent. There's something. It's just he seems like out of a play or something, Yeah,
he's someone that you can identify with in that way, and that I think lots of people feel, and certainly at times in our lives we've felt like, damn it, we're so good. We don't know how to play the game.
Yeah,
get in there. Blah,
exactly.
Blah, blah.
That's why I've had trouble with Sainz.
Right.
Because Sainz seems like he's very good at playing the game. He's very political. That's the perception of him, is that he's a smooth operator, right? He might not be the rawest talent, but he's very good. He's got a father who's plugged in, and he's grown up in this space and knows how to play the game. Whereas Alonso is the son of an inventor who built explosives, and it's just he doesn't know how to play the game. All he knows is how to drive, and I don't know. That's something.
And now in his new era of being like Mr. Cute Guy on the internet.
Yeah.
There's something also kind of like, because he's so tongue in cheek about it, where he's like, clearly someone is just telling him what to do. That it's like, I don't think that he's like, hey, let's like do a TikTok dance of me doing the gritty. They're just like, Alonso, you don't know how to do this, so let us do this for you. Let people love you.
Yeah.
Just let it happen. And now there's this era of people finally like loving him after him being such a controversial figure for many years. So I think that's all that, and he's so old, he's still kicking ass. So
I mean, when he did that save and popped open the DRS, I mean, it's just it's like watching like an old Clint Eastwood like still kicking ass. So
I do agree that I do think he is letting people love him a little bit more. I think he isn't trying so hard to be that villain or that so like wholeheartedly fully focused on doing whatever it takes to win at all costs. I think he's changed. He's recently bought a DTM car, and we were chatting about it in China, and today, in fact, he's out in Miami, giving people passenger rides in it. And when you chat to him about it, right, he gets there's that same glint in his eye and that same kick out of him scaring the shit out of someone on a passenger lap than he probably gets, going out there racing. So I think he gets his kicks in in more ways these days. I think it's a little bit more, not just fully Formula One focus. He's just super happy, I think, in where he is at the minute. He's got a great gig at Aston Martin. He can do any racing project he ever wants to do. He can stay in Formula One until he's 60 if he wants to at this rate. Like he is just having the best time of it. And the one thing that I do really like about him that you mentioned is that he is just really, really genuine. And I think last year, after every podium he was like, this is the best race I've ever done. Best race I've ever done. Best one. And I think you can look at it and think, oh no, you're just saying that for the sake of it. But no, he genuinely believes at that point in time that performance he delivered is the best he's ever done. And I think to be in that mindset and to have that kind of dedication and purity about what you're trying to achieve is like no athlete I've ever seen.
Best race ever driven.
Yeah, it's the greatest race. I don't care that I held off Schumacher in 2005. Whatever. No, a podium in Bahrain in 2023.
Yeah. I'm curious to ask why you asked me why. Like you seemed confused as to why I would like him.
No, I'm just fascinated about reasons why people like, but Alonso is an interesting character. He's what I would describe as a Marmite character, because I think across the time that I've covered sport, you've got those people who wholeheartedly love him for, they won't have a bad word said against him. And then you've got a group of people who get frustrated by him, I guess, get frustrated maybe by his antics on track or the things that he says or sometimes the way he comes across. So I'm always fascinated when you get into a conversation about Alonso, about the kind of inner workings as to why you like or don't like Alonso. I'm fascinated by it.
I think it's interesting. I think when someone says who their favorite driver is, I think it often says a lot about who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes you see themselves in a driver. People see themselves in a driver like, to me, Fernando Alonso is a misunderstood asshole. So, take that what you will from that.
Right. And I love Lando because he's like a little like overlooked boy wonder, and that's how I felt as a child. And he's like tiny, and he's like, but he's also like sad, and he's like sensitive, and that's how I felt as a kid.
Yeah.
And Matt and I, it's like you have.
And then when I insult Lando, Brian takes it personally.
Yeah.
And then when he insults Alonso, I take it personally. And then when we talk, and then when you're critical of it, the people on the internet, they just come for you.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that. Like you've said one cross word, and then all of a sudden,
whatever,
you have to check your mailbox because who knows?
Yeah, sometimes I don't look at my DMs for a while because
Yes.
Yeah,
most definitely. Well, we want to get into a little bit more about you. Something we appreciate about you is the fashion choices that you're bringing to the grid. Jenny, could we pull up? Could we send some
you're in
links?
a bit of an arms race with Will Buxton, it seems like.
I think, I don't.
He's trying to keep up with me. He's trying.
You know what? It's like, because we asked him a little bit about his fashion, but you're coming in with some.
And I'll wait, but people talk about Lawrence's fashion and his shoes, but before we do that, I just want to say, people talk a lot about Carlos Sainz's hair. No one's talking about Lawrence Barretto's hair. Your hair game.
Yes.
What we shampoo and conditioner. Or we talking products. What are you working with in that hair?
This is going to shock you. This is going to absolutely shock you. I'm working with no products. I'm working with a hair dryer only. That's how thick this hair is.
Oh, talk your shit, dude. Let's go. Thick with 2 C's, baby. Okay, hair dryer only.
Hair dryer only.
So you get that coif. Is there like a technique to the?
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, I'm not.
Hair dryer only.
I can't believe this is happening. But yes, there is a technique.
No one's ever asked you about your hair?
No one's asked me about the technique.
Well,
for
that's
my
why you come on this
I respect
program.
that.
We're
I
also
respect that
journalists.
question.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
I respect that question.
Yes. Okay, so we got this first pick. It's in the chat.
Okay.
You could check that out.
I got it. Yeah. So there's a lot going on in this picture.
Yes, there is.
So those are my moon boots.
Yes.
My red moon boots. I bought those. This was taken in the Nürburgring. I bought those because I thought it would be cool to have some winter boots in Sochi, home of the Winter Olympics. What I hadn't considered was that when we went to Sochi, it was between 25 and 30 degrees. So, I obviously took my boots with me and I committed to wearing the boots. And, I had to take them off halfway through. Yeah, it's called fashion.
Yeah, fashion is pain.
Yeah.
But they were brilliant at that race at the Nürburgring because it was super wet. It was that year where it absolutely tipped it down.
Yeah,
So,
Nikita Mazepin, according to Drive to Survive, he looked at the clouds and he said it's going to rain.
Yeah.
And he was able to put on the inters.
He was able to put the Nürburgring.
Oh, this no. But he was saying at Sochi.
Oh, it's Sochi.
Yeah, Sochi,
It
yeah.
rained. Right, that was that year. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did Nikita comment on your boots?
No, Lewis did though. That's in Drive to Survive season 1 or 2. There's a clip, I can't remember when it was, but he commented on the boots saying,
Who
"No, must be
appreciates
really
the fashion?
fine."
Is it always Lewis? Does Lewis always kind of give props where props are due, or is it who else kind of digs the fashion?
Honestly, to be fair, most of them do. Like Yuki does, Pierre does. I guess if you look at the people who, and when they say dig the fashion, I'm not sure they naturally would wear what I'm wearing, but they have a respect for what I am wearing. But yeah, I think, Pierre, Yuki, Carlos Charles, Lewis, a lot of them do, to be honest. I kind of used it as it's quite a good talking point. So if I'm about to do an interview and I'm wearing some quirky shoes, that's quite a nice thing to be talking about before we break the ice, and a bit of small talk before we kick on.
All right, great. Jenny, next link.
All like the tension.
We are checking. We are checking.
We are checking. We are checking.
We are checking.
Here we go.
These shoes. These are major. These are also, this is.
You put a gun in my head and said, "Whose shoes are that?" I would have said Lewis.
Lewis Hamilton, exactly. They're very Lewis coded.
Very Lewis coded.
That is his color, isn't it? That shade of purple is definitely his color. I just got those off ASOS. I wanted some purple boots to go with the purple look that I was kind of forming. And they are, without doubt, the most popular pair of shoes that I wear. And I'm saying, like, anyone from engineers, mechanics, truckies, to comms people, marketing people, they're like, love those boots. Don't know if they'd wear them, but they love those boots.
Here's the thing: is you're probably putting in over 15,000 steps in those. Does it get uncomfortable, or is that just part of the game of looking
It's
good?
deeply, deeply uncomfortable. So certain boots are definitely worse, like the cowboy boots that I had in Austin last year. They had like a wooden heel, and I was on I was on my feet for 12, 13 hours in the paddock, and you 15,000, 20,000. It's normally between 20 and 25,000 I do sets.
Wooden heels? In clogs, essentially?
Yeah, essentially. It was a world of pain. So, my travel kit has plasters and all sorts of things, ready to go to look after my feet as best I can.
So you've had blisters in your time?
I've had a number of blisters, on some unthinkable ones, really, thinking about it. The pain.
Yeah, I mean, you could be wearing New Balances and have 25,000 steps and have blisters. So,
right.
True.
Wooden heels.
28. After I used to wear like Converse all the time, and then when I hit 28, 29, I was like, you know what? This is just not worth the amount of pain it is after.
But they're still so cool, though, Converses.
Yeah, I know, but they're not as good as like like now these. I can walk like 30,000 steps and a pair of Brooks.
The
Hokas.
Yeah, you're not walking on clouds basically when those shoes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, next fashion item. Oh
yeah.
I mean, these are major.
Lawrence is like, sometimes I do astound myself.
I forgot about these because I've been wanting them for ages. So these I thought it'd be cool to have some light up shoes because, well, why not? And these are USB powered, so you just plug them in overnight, power them up, and then you can have them matching coloured. You can have them flashing, or you can have them rainbow, like Rainbow Road on Super Mario Kart, and you can have whatever function you want. And I had these in Bahrain, I think, and they were properly cool. Oh, I love those pairs. I'm gonna have to go find those pairs. Actually.
I mean, you got to wear those for night races, right? It's like you got to have those for a night race.
Yeah, exactly that kind of thing. Although one of the guys who paints some of my shoes has found this new like UV paint, so it's one color during the day in the sunlight, and then it goes to a different color when the lights go down in the evening.
Okay, let's talk about the shoes for a little bit. So it's my understanding that you're not like a sneakerhead, like you don't collect them like a classic sneakerhead.
Shoes are to be worn, or sneakers or trainers to be worn for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
These boots are made for walking. That's just what
absolutely. So the sun goes.
So, if money was no object, what are the shoes you're getting? What is your dream shoe?
The one, honestly, that I'm working on at the minute is to work out how we can have a shoe that has dry ice in pockets on the side of the shoe. So
I thought he was going to say Jordans or some shit.
Yes.
No. I'm not mainstream. I like to, I'm a little sideways, should we say. So I like the idea of walking down the paddock or, doing an interview, and then you've got like the smoke from the dry ice coming out. But we're struggling at the minute to make sure to package it in a way that doesn't burn my feet, obviously.
Yeah, it needs to be insulated.
What if they told you it would just burn your feet a little bit?
Oh, no.
I said I've done 28,000 steps in clogs.
You're gonna do 20,000 steps with wooden heels. You wouldn't do just a little bit of dry ice burn.
No,
a little bit of frostbite. Just a cute amount of frostbite.
Lawrence, who are you working on this with? Because you are like in the hub of the most technically savvy people in the world.
Hey,
arguably.
Newey's retiring.
Maybe his new project could be working on your sneakers.
You are right. I don't know why I've not thought about recruiting some engineers into this. I'm surrounded by them. That's a great idea. I don't know why.
All these, Ruth Buscombe is on gardening leave. She needs a project. She needs something to do.
You should be calling up all the engineers on gardening leave and be like, okay, I'm pretty sure you can do this. I'm pretty sure this wouldn't violate your gardening leave. Helping me with my shoes.
Yeah, this is thermodynamics in a way that is not going to threaten any engine bullshit.
And heck of a cool project, right, to work on.
Yeah.
No,
we just solved your problem for you, basically.
I need you to figure that out because I need to see that. I need to see like just the shot of you walking with
in Qatar when it's hot, and then everyone's just like jealous of how cool you are.
That would be cool. Well, watch this space. I'm working on it.
Okay. Amazing. Will do.
And you should put them in like one of those like with a pump. You know the shoes. What are the shoes with the orange pump?
With the pumps.
And you could like pump. You could make it. You could expel more gas.
Right. You could open up a little channel for more gas to come out.
Yeah.
I'm loving this. Okay, wait.
Who's got the best shoe game in the paddock? You cannot say Lewis.
Because that's a given. Or maybe, Joe, too. Those guys feel like kind of given.
If you could rob someone of their shoes, who would it be?
Probably Yuki or Pierre or Charles. I think they've probably got, with Lewis and Joe as an exception, I think those three have probably got the best like shoe / general fashion game, I think. I mean, they're all up in their game these days, but I feel like those three, I'd want to pinch one of their shoes.
And when you pick like a wild pair of shoes, how do you figure out like what outfit? Do you pick the outfit and then the shoes? Or you pick the shoes, or are you just being this is the outfit I want, these are the shoes I want, and you don't really coordinate?
So normally I'm going for the shoe. So the shoe defines the rest of what I'm wearing. So I build out the outfit from that. But I'm pretty lucky in that I've got like every color of the spectrum. So I've got all of the core colors, so I can basically make anything work now with whatever shoes I'm wearing.
And how many shoes do you bring on a weekend?
So I take in my suitcase 10 shoes.
10 pairs of fucking shoes?
Yeah.
Lawrence, I'm obsessed. I'm
Lawrence,
obsessed.
you take 10 pairs?
Yeah.
So that's, you fully have to check. You have to check this bag now.
Yeah. I'm always checking a bag. So I take a check. I've got a checked bag, but I've also got a hand luggage bag that has 2 of the 10 in case the big bag gets lost. So I've got cover.
Okay, smart.
But those are just trainers. So then I'll also take a smart pair of shoes just in case I need smart pair. I'll take a running pair of shoes. I'll take what I describe as a comfy pair of shoes, and then I'll take 2 or 3 flip flops. And so I've got one of those split bags as well. So like one half is shoes and the other half is clothes.
Sure. Yeah.
Wait, so how many of those shoes are just like fashion shoes?
The 10 are the fashion shoes. The others are kind of just,
so you take 10 fashionable shoes, and then on top of the 10,
the other ones,
couple of flip flops.
Yes, smart pair, running pair,
smart pair, like loafers.
So it's like 15.
So it's like 15 shoes.
Yeah, if you take the flip flops, yeah. Plus and then I'm traveling in 1 pair of shoes, so I'll have 16 pairs.
So
with me.
16 pairs of shoes.
That's called preparation.
That's called more than I own. So how many pairs of shoes? How many pairs of things that go on your feet that you own?
I'm not sure how many flip flops I've got.
Are you wired up? Just take it with you. Just take it with you.
How many shoes are you wearing right now?
Right. So I'm pretty sure trainers wise, I've got between 67 and 70.
Okay.
And then smart shoes, I've got probably 10 pairs, and flip flops like 15, 20. I'm not sure. I need to go check.
Wow.
And then boots I've probably got 8 pairs. And then I've got my moon boots and wellies.
Okay. There's a fire. You can only save 3.
Yeah,
3 pairs of shoes.
There's a fire in your house. You're taking 3 pairs.
Well, firstly, what a sad day this is going to be. Forget my wife. Forget everything else in the house. Just the shoes.
We're just talking about the shoes.
All the loved ones are fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. So assuming all the people in my house are out, then I'm going to take my Star Wars Chewbacca Adidas's. I'm going to take my purple boots, the Chelsea Cowboy / boots. And then I'm going to take my Vans, my multicolored Vans, one of which Daniel Ricciardo did a shoey in.
That's good.
So there you go. So those are the 3
is it like ruined, or had you get it cleaned? Did you get it cleaned, or it's just
you don't wear it?
So as soon as he did it, I soaked a load of like napkins in it to absorb the rest of the champagne or whatever it was that he drank out of it. Yeah. And then he signed it afterwards. It sat on my desk on my desk.
What was the context for why he did this? When did this happen?
So it was when he won for McLaren in Monza in 21, was it 2021?
Yeah, 21.
So we went in a TV pen. He was I was the last person he came to, and I was like, he didn't do a shoey on the podium, so I reminded him of that, which he was furious about. So then I said, well,
I thought he did do a shoey.
Did he?
And Lando did one too, right?
Maybe I've misunderstood.
Or Zach definitely. Did.
He did. I'm pretty sure he did a shoey.
Whatever.
Zach definitely did a shoey because there's a great.
Maybe I
misremembered
that story then. Maybe that's Renault.
No, it was the only. No, your shoe was the only one.
Yeah, I'll take.
Well, let's go back to. Anyway, I said to him, let's do a shoey. So I did. Yeah. He came to my interview, so I filled this boot up, and I was like, "Do you want to do one in my shoe?" And he was like, "Yeah." And so we got it on camera. Yeah, so he nailed it.
I see a picture of this now.
Wait, you filled your you filled your shoe up before he agreed to do this?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I had it all ready to go.
What if he had said, "I'm okay"? Then you would have just been sitting there with a fucking shoe with your nice.
He knew he was gonna do it though. There's no way he's gonna say no to that.
I was reasonably confident he was gonna do it. And he did it, yeah. And then I spent the rest of the day.
He seems always up for a good dare. Okay, well, let's do it. We're going to do a little rapid fire with you. We're going to start with this, though, because you just talked about your shoes.
Okay.
Sneakers or burgers?
Oh, sneakers.
Okay, well,
Oh wow, because
we got to ask him about burgers.
Well, I know because you're collecting a list. You're going to write a book about your burger tasting.
I am, yes. I'm trying to eat a burger from a good burger from every single race location around the world.
Okay.
What's the best so far?
It's in Montreal. It's a burger that is served in a pool of gravy. So bear with me, okay? Bear with me. So they've toasted both sides of the bottom bun. So obviously when it's sat in the gravy, it's not like falling apart. You cut it in half, then you dip the burger in the gravy, then you eat said burger. It is a taste sensation. I can't tell you how good it is.
Okay,
Very simple. So we're talking not too many toppings. We're talking just a couple of beef patties, cheese, just American cheese and like grilled onions and their own burger sauce. And that's it. So we're talking very simple.
How do you feel about this new phenomenon of a smashed burger?
I like a smash burger, but it's not an authentic burger in my view. Yeah.
Right. And have you ever been to New York?
I have, yes.
What are your favorite burger?
What are my favorite burgers in New York? I'm trying to think now. There's one in a hotel. This is a secret burger, like Burger Joint, I think it's called. It's in a hotel where you go around. It's a really fancy hotel foyer. You pull the red curtain away and then you go into like this graffitied corridor. And then it's like, there's like a burger joint at the back, but I can't remember what it's called.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, that was probably my favorite burger that I've had there. Or there was an Unami. I had Unami burger in Williamsburg. That was good.
That's good. That's a good burger. The haunt where I grew up was a place called JG Mellon's.
Yeah.
You ever heard
Okay.
of that place?
No.
It's like
Talk
a
to me.
very old school. It's like
Small, but it's like juicy, and they charbroil it, or I don't know. How
and it's
to
like
make it.
paper on the table.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very like
Old school
New York. The ambiance adds to
and they don't put a
adds
lot
to the
of
flavor.
they don't put a lot of stuff on it. It's
Yeah.
just very classic.
That's the good thing about a good burger. I think keep it simple. Don't like tower it so you can't eat it properly. Don't stuff a load of stuff you don't need into it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna keep on. We needed to get that out of the way, but this is more rapid fire. We got What's your F1 fantasy team name?
Oh,
What would it be?
damn! I haven't thought about that. Oh God, no! I need a F1 team fancy name. I'd have my surname. It'd be really boring. It'd be like Braun F1. So it probably should be like something like BMW Barretto Racing, something like that. I think it'll be quite cool.
Squash.
Yeah. Which race has? What are your favorite fans?
Difficult. I was gonna say,
whatever place he's at, like Lewis.
I would say Italy probably in terms of like core, like noise and knowledge. Italy probably.
What's your favorite track?
Singapore.
Interesting.
That is by far.
Even though it's a street track.
Oh, I love it though. It's just, for me, a good track is one where you watch racing cars and you get that real kick out watching them go around it.
What's your favorite interview you've done this year?
Fernando Alonso. I interviewed him straight after he signed his new contract and he was the most honest, expressive I've ever seen him.
What driver would you most like to party with?
Oh, that's a good Lewis, because I want to see what partying with Lewis is like. Yeah, so definitely Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, you and Will Buxton are going kart racing. Who's winning?
I've got to beat him. I'll never live it down if I don't beat him, Buxton. Even though he'll tell you about the Florida Winter Series he raced in, and he'll tell you about this, that, and the other.
He beat Latifi.
He did. There you go. Yeah, another person he's bored that story with. Yeah.
Okay, what about between Chris Medlin and Nate Saunders, the three of you guys?
Oh, you want me to pick between them?
No, if you're gonna kart against them, the three of you are racing.
Medland. Like, Medland is like disgustingly good at go-karting. Like he's
Really?
he's going to drive an F1 car this year. He's going to drive the Alpine because he won the media karting championship last year, and his prize is to drive an Alpine Formula One car.
Holy shit!
Who is runner up?
That I can't remember who's the runner up. I can't
No one
remember.
cares about the runner up.
Which is also true, isn't it? Yeah, because they don't get to drive a Formula One car.
He gets to win, and then his reward is to drive a fucking Alpine. Jesus Christ!
Well, he He finished second the year before, so he was obviously frustrated to just miss out on that was the first time they ran the competition, and he was hopeful they'd run it again this year. And he actually went to an extra Grand Prix to race in the kart race to make sure he had enough points to make sure he was in the championship. That's how seriously he was
it's like a
taking it.
series. It's not like one race.
No. So there's
Wow.
like 5 or 6 rounds across the year. And yeah, that's how seriously he took it. No. Look, I know what my limits are, guys, and karting is not for me.
When are they going to do a media squash tournament?
Tell me about it, right? Tell me about
Finally
it.
have your day in this fucking sun. Who's the driver you'd least like to do a fast lap with?
Least like to do one.
Like who you would be fucking terrified? Who they would like try to fucking scare the shit out of you?
Oh, they all would. The funny thing is they would all try to do it, but who do I think would be the most loose off the current grid?
Yeah.
It probably would be someone like Lando, I think, because Lando they all have no fear, but I think Lando in whatever machine we're in, he would try his hardest to make me sick, which would be quite funny, I suppose, for the viewer. Less funny for me.
Who would be like, okay, I feel safe in this, most safe in this person's hands?
I wouldn't feel safe with any of them. No way. Because they'd all want to make me sick. So no.
Okay. We already asked sneakers or burgers. Street tracks or purpose built?
I definitely love a purpose built circuit more than a street track, but I think you need both to make a decent championship.
Okay. Grid walk or post race interview?
Oh, that's a good post race interview because you get them at their rawest then.
Never having jet lag or always having good interview answers and good interviews?
Always having good interview answers because I'm destined to a life of jet lag. So
okay, you're resigned to that. Okay, amazing.
I think we all killed it. The three of us.
This was such a great time. We're so thankful that you came on and shared all your. I mean, 16 sneakers is something that 16 shoes is something that I will be thinking about for a very long time.
Do either of you own as many as 16 sneakers?
No. I don't
Really?
own, if you include every kind of footwear, I own maybe 4 or 5.
I own like 2 or 3, and I just wear them until they're dead, and then I just get a new 2 or 3, and then I just wear them until they're
Oh,
dead.
wow. Yeah, maybe I do have a problem.
Yeah.
Well, it's only a problem if it negatively affects other areas of your life. Right now, it's a passion.
Yeah, not yet.
Yes.
Sure, you're right.
So as long as it doesn't do that, then you're good. Well, thank you so much. We start this pod by saying "Was up, Vankas," which is an ode to Gunther Steiner in the pilot of episode of Drive to Survive. Will you honor us with a goodbye, Vankas?
So I just have to say goodbye, Vankers.
Yes.
Oh, God. Brian, Matt, goodbye, Vankers.
Yes. Goodbye, Vankas.